Have you ever sat down at your desk, taking a sip of coffee, looked at your screen, and suddenly realized you feel, well, less like the highly skilled expert you were actually hired to be,
Hmm.
and more like a highly paid digital traffic controller?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's such a universal feeling right now.
Right. You're just constantly directing this endless stream of emails and calendar invites and tracking spreadsheets, just trying to keep the day-to-day operations from totally crashing into each other.
Yeah, exactly. You end up spending, honestly, the vast majority of your cognitive energy just managing the flow of work rather than, actually executing the deep specialized work you were trained to do.
And that feeling of being a digital traffic controller is exactly what we are tackling in today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We're exploring how to finally escape this relentless grind of administrative friction.
Which is something I think everyone listening desperately wants to figure out.
Absolutely. So our discussion today draws heavily from the June 2026 book, as well as the accompanying blog series published on the AI 365 blog. It's called The Agentic Workplace.
Hmm. A really fantastic source.
Yeah, it really is. And our mission today is twofold. First, we want to dissect the underlying mechanics of why we are drowning in these tasks. And second, to explore how the shift toward proactive, agentic AI fundamentally rewires how we operate.
Yeah, and to understand that technological solution, we really have to break down the psychology of the problem we're currently stuck in. Because, well, the administrative trap we all deal with is incredibly deceptive.
How so?
Well, it disguises itself as high performance. It looks like you're getting a lot done.
Right. There is this vivid scenario outlined in the agentic workplace that perfectly captures this. Imagine a professional, let's just call her Sarah. She sits down at her desk at 8:30 a.m., highly determined, right?
We all know a Sarah, or we are Sarah.
Exactly. So she has this complex strategic growth plan to build out.
Mhm.
This is the critical, high-visibility project she was specifically hired to lead. But she makes that one fatal miscalculation.
Yep, the just 5 minutes trap.
Right. She figures, let me just quickly clear out my inbox first and get the urgent Slack messages out of the way.
Which is the classic trap of the modern knowledge worker. The intention is to create a clean slate for deep work.
But of course, 3 hours just vanish. I mean, she responds to dozens of emails. She updates a quarterly project tracker. She untangles a double-booked client presentation, tracks down a missing expense report.
And suddenly it's 11:00 a.m.
Exactly. And she hasn't written a single word of that strategic growth plan. Her mental energy is completely tapped out, and the real work hasn't even started. Knowledge workers today are spending up to 60% of their workday on this exact kind of work about work.
60%. It's just staggering when you really think about it.
It is. But I want to push back on this a little bit because from a purely operational standpoint, isn't clearing the inbox and keeping the calendar organized entirely necessary? I mean, the client presentation is double booked. Someone actually has to fix it. If the expense report isn't filed, the vendor doesn't get paid. Why are we calling this a trap if it is just the basic, necessary machinery of running a business?
What's fascinating here is the crucial distinction between what is necessary for a business to function and what is the highest and best use of your specific human cognition.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. Because yes, the work is absolutely necessary. The trap lies in the biological response it triggers. Accomplishing these routine tasks creates what psychologists call the illusion of productivity.
Oh, interesting. The illusion.
Yeah. Every time you check off a minor task or resolve a scheduling conflict or clear an email, your brain receives this little microdose of dopamine. It physically tricks your neural circuitry into feeling a deep sense of accomplishment.
Right, because when you're constantly reacting to notifications, you are confusing motion with actual progress. You're executing hundreds of microtransactions, but the core project remains completely static.
Exactly. And you go home exhausted, feeling like you had an incredibly demanding, impactful day. But exhaustion is not impact.
Wow. Exhaustion is not impact. That's a great way to put it.
The trap is that these dopamine-heavy minor tasks actively displace the specialized expertise you were hired to use. The needle hasn't moved an inch on the projects that actually drive the business forward.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because there is a severe biological cost to those microtransactions. It's a psychological concept known as attention residue.
Yes, attention residue. This is a huge piece of the puzzle.
Right. The idea is that when you shift your focus from a high cognitive task, say designing a software architecture or writing a complex legal brief, to a mundane task like answering a quick Slack message, your brain doesn't just instantly pivot.
No, it really doesn't. The neural pathways do not make a clean break.
Yeah.
There's a documented latency period when you switch contexts. A significant portion of your cognitive capacity remains subconsciously anchored to the previous task.
It's exactly like having 50 browser tabs open on your laptop. I mean, you might be looking at the single email tab right in front of you, but in the background, the massive data modeling tab and the strategic planning tab are still consuming RAM.
That's a perfect analogy.
You don't have a clean slate at all. Your system's overall processing power is heavily throttled. You're paying a mental tax every single time you switch your attention.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this constant fragmentation destroys your ability to engage in deep work. True synthesis, creativity, and complex problem solving, they require uninterrupted blocks of time.
Which are basically impossible to find in a normal office environment.
Exactly. Because the standard workday is fractured by these constant administrative demands, professionals are forced into a corner. To find the focus required for their actual jobs, they have to push their most critical work into the margins of the day.
Right, like late at night after the house is quiet or at 5 in the morning before the Slack notifications even begin.
Which guarantees chronic cognitive fatigue and burnout. But beyond just the physical exhaustion, there is a very real professional danger here, which is the threat of career stagnation.
Oh, absolutely.
The modern corporate landscape operates on this completely unsustainable double standard. You are evaluated, promoted, and rewarded based on innovation, revenue generation, and big picture strategic thinking.
Right, but your daily reality is being buried under secondary administrative tasks. And let's be entirely honest, no one gets promoted to the executive team because they achieved inbox zero faster than anyone else in the department.
Exactly. No one. Highly capable, brilliant individuals end up stuck in these endless execution loops. They spend their best cognitive hours managing the chaos of the work, leaving them with zero bandwidth to pursue the high-visibility initiatives that actually advance their careers.
So they stagnate not from a lack of talent, but because they are structurally trapped under the administrative burden.
Exactly.
Well, if the physiological and professional toll is that high, it makes complete sense why we have spent the last few years throwing generative AI at the problem. But for anyone who uses standard chatbots on a daily basis, they haven't actually solved this administrative bottleneck.
No, they really haven't. Because we have reached the structural limit of standard reactive generative AI. Traditional chatbots are incredibly knowledgeable, but they are fundamentally passive.
They just sit there.
Yeah, they sit inside a browser window waiting for continuous granular human instruction.
It is a lot like sitting in the passenger seat of a driver's ed car. Sure, the AI has its hands on the steering wheel, and it can successfully generate the code or draft the email. But you have your foot hovering over the brake the entire time, and you have to verbally instruct every single lane change, every turn, and every stop.
That's spot on.
Like if you want a chatbot to send an email to 50 clients, customized by their purchase history, and then update a database, you have to hold its hand through the entire workflow.
You really do. You have to prompt it to write the template. You have to manually export your database. You have to feed the specific data parameters into the context window.
Oh, and then you have to manually copy the outputs, open your email client, and hit send 50 times yourself.
Exactly. The human remains the manager, the coordinator, and the executioner.
Because of that, you suffer from prompt fatigue. The mental modeling required to write the perfect, exhaustive prompt to get the exact output you need. Well, it often feels heavier than the task itself.
Yes. You haven't actually outsourced the work. You have just outsourced the typing.
Right. You're still paying that attention residue tax because you're constantly engaged in the loot of the task.
Which is why the administrative burden hasn't disappeared. It has merely changed shape. Instead of managing spreadsheets, you're now managing prompts.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because that structural bottleneck is exactly what necessitates the paradigm shift outlined in the agentic workplace. Since reactive chatbots still require us to micromanage them, the necessary evolution of the technology is a shift toward true autonomy.
Yes.
And this brings us to the AI agent.
This is the moment the nature of digital work fundamentally transforms. An AI agent is defined as a proactive, goal-oriented digital workforce that can self-prompt.
So no more holding its hand.
Right. You are no longer managing a passive tool. You're directing an autonomous partner capable of executing complex workflows from start to finish.
To understand how this actually operates without feeling like magic, we have to look at the anatomy of an agent. An autonomous agent functions through four continuous mechanisms: perception, planning, action, and reflection.
And we really need to dive deep into how these loops actually work, starting with perception, because this goes way beyond just reading a text prompt. Perception is how the AI gathers semantic context about your specific digital environment.
Wait, what does that mean in practice?
Well, when you tell a standard chatbot to prepare for the marketing meeting, it just generates a generic list of tips on how to hold a meeting.
Right.
But when an agent perceives that same command, it ingests the state of your workspace. It accesses your calendar API to see who is attending. It searches your local drive for the transcript of last week's meeting. Yeah. It parses that transcript to find the unresolved action items, and it queries your CRM for the latest campaign metrics. It understands the underlying intent behind your request.
Okay, so once it has that massive amount of context, it moves to step two, planning. It doesn't just blindly start generating text. It spins up a logic tree, essentially a step-by-step roadmap to achieve the goal.
Exactly. It calculates dependencies and anticipates roadblocks.
Like it decides, okay, I cannot draft the executive summary until I first query the database for the Q3 numbers, and I can't do that until I format the dates correctly. It creates its own internal workflow.
Then we reach step 3, action. This is where the technology leaps out of the chat window entirely.
Right, because it's doing the work now.
Yes. Modern agents are designed to execute tasks across your entire digital workspace natively. They use headless browsers to navigate the live web. They interact directly with software APIs.
They can write and execute Python scripts in a sandbox to merge data, right? And they can even send emails on your behalf.
Yeah.
They're manipulating the software environment just as a human user would.
They are. But the true breakthrough, the mechanism that actually allows for real autonomy, is step 4, reflection, the self-correction loop.
The reflection phase. This is the part that blows my mind.
Without reflection, an AI is brittle. If a standard automation script hits an unexpected error, it breaks, and a human has to step in to fix it. But an agentic system constantly evaluates its own output against the underlying intent established in the planning phase.
So if the agent writes a piece of code to pull data from a server and the code throws a syntax error, it doesn't stop and ask you what to do.
No, it doesn't.
The underlying large language model reads the stack trace, identifies that it missed a comma or used the wrong data type, rewrites its own code, and runs it again.
Yes. Or if it runs a web search and finds no relevant results, it realizes the search parameters were too narrow, rephrases the query, and tries again. It loops continuously until the output matches the goal.
That is wild.
That reflection phase is the critical safety net. It allows the agent to navigate the messy, unpredictable, dynamic reality of a real-world digital workspace without constantly pinging the human for help.
But, and I have to ask the question that every professional immediately thinks of when they hear this.
I think I know what's coming.
If this agent is executing all these steps, or autonomously, browsing the web, modifying my databases, sending emails from my account, what stops it from making a catastrophic mistake? I mean, I simply cannot afford to have a digital proxy hallucinate and send the wrong pricing tier to my top 50 clients while I'm away at lunch.
This raises an important question, and honestly is the single biggest hurdle to adopting an agentic workflow. The answer lies in how the architecture is designed to handle oversight. Autonomy does not equal zero human control.
Okay, how so?
Because the reflection loop is constantly checking its work against your parameters, it is highly sensitive to anomalies. But more importantly, these systems are designed with human-in-the-loop thresholds.
Meaning, the agent does all the heavy lifting, the data gathering, the formatting, the cross-referencing, the drafting, but it pauses right before the point of no return.
Exactly. For high-stakes actions, like sending a mass communication or altering a master database, the agent prepares the entire workflow and simply asks for your final approval.
Right.
If it encounters a variable it has never seen before, it pauses and escalates to you. You remain the director. You retain total control over the outcomes. You just aren't the one laying the individual bricks to get there.
So what does this all mean? Imagine your own workday tomorrow. What could you actually achieve if 80% of your administrative friction just vanished?
It's a huge shift.
Right. If the inbox sorting, the meeting prep, the data entry, the formatting, if all of that was just handled quietly and autonomously in the background by your agent, what would you do with those reclaimed hours?
It forces a complete redefinition of what it means to be productive. For decades, we have defined a productive day by volume. How many routine tasks we checked off a list.
Yeah, that dopamine hit we talked about.
Exactly. But when you delegate the execution of those workflows to an agent, Your human cognitive capacity is suddenly freed up for the things that AI structurally cannot do: empathy, creative intuition, complex ethical judgment, high-level relationship building, and strategic foresight.
You transition from being the creator of routine tasks, like the person down in the dirt digging the trench, to becoming the director and strategist. You elevate to the role of the architect.
And this leads to an incredible democratization of capability. Think about what it used to take to launch a comprehensive marketing campaign or to analyze a massive, unstructured set of global financial data.
You needed a whole team.
You needed dedicated, specialized teams. You needed data analysts, copywriters, media buyers, and project coordinators. Now, a single professional, acting as the strategic director, can manage a team of specialized AI agents to execute that same complex objective.
One person with a clear vision and an agentic workforce can rival the output of an entire department. That completely changes the scale of what an individual can accomplish.
But knowledge is most valuable when it is understood and applied. The mindset shift here is non-negotiable. You cannot view this as AI coming to replace your job.
Right.
You have to view it as AI partnering with you to amplify your true expertise. If your only value to your organization was moving data from column A to column B, then yes, that specific function is obsolete.
Yeah, the machine does that now.
But your real value is your strategic mind, your deep industry experience, and your human intuition. The agent simply removes the friction so your actual value can scale.
Wow. We have covered a massive amount of ground today. We dissected the illusion of the administrative trap where checking boxes makes us feel productive but leaves us totally burned out. We explored the biological cost of attention residue and why the reactive chatbots we use today simply change the nature of the work rather than eliminating it. And we walked through the incredible mechanics of proactive AI agents, how perception, planning, action, and reflection allow them to autonomously handle our digital workflows, freeing us up to finally do the deep work we were actually hired to do.
Yeah, and as we look toward this transition, I want to leave you with a final thought drawn directly from the concluding chapters of The Agentic Workplace.
Sure. What is it?
As we adopt this technology, what governance or ethical considerations must we put in place to responsibly integrate these autonomous agents into our daily operations?
Because we are essentially handing over a massive amount of delegation power.
We are. If an agent is making micro decisions, updating critical records, and interacting with your clients autonomously, how do we structure the ethics of that delegation?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Who is ultimately responsible when an autonomous agent makes a subtle judgment call that goes wrong?
Exactly. How do we ensure transparency so that clients and colleagues know when they are interacting with your digital proxy versus you directly? We're handing over the keys to our digital lives, and the rules of the road simply haven't been written yet.
It is a profound concept to end on. You are no longer just a digital traffic controller reacting to the chaos of the modern workday. You are stepping into the role of governing your own personal digital workforce.
It's an exciting time.
It really is. How you manage that newfound power, how you apply your strategic vision, and the ethics you bring to it, well, that is entirely up to you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep mulling over how you will architect your own agentic workplace. We will catch you next time.